Alright, shalom, shalom. Just gonna do a quick test. Alright, audio seems good. Gonna get straight into it. Alright, let me share my screen. Alright, first off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Bashem Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers in the highways and byways pushing this word in all sincerity and truth. Sisters, the believers, the helps, the hopeful elect. Shalom. This is the brother Aaron from a Jamaica camp coming with another quick lesson. And this lesson is gonna be a follow-up to the previous lesson I did about Agenda 21 and the current energy crisis, and more specifically, how various policies and laws in Jamaica that are being tabled, considered, and even used in Jamaica, right, and how it all aligns and shows how it's also, leading up to the MOTB, the Karagma, mark of the you know what, as well as to show that, this is a part of getting Esau Edom, the so called white man, his new world order, right? And of late, I can tell that they do want to, well, speak as a man, in my opinion. I believe that they actually want to push these body cams, but they're actually doing it in such a way where the people are asking for it. Of late over social media, you're seeing a lot of highlights about security forces and the need, the public crying for those body cams, which, you know, it's there. One of the uses is definitely for transparency, and it can be a good thing, right? And I'm going to get the same precepts from the last lesson, as we know, but they they're trying to act as if there isn't a sinister agenda behind this thing, or that it can't be used in ways to actually trap the people, right? So as always, definitely going to start out um, with these precepts, or with this specific precept, Salakia. And you can watch the previous video as well, right? So this is Daniel 8 verse 25. This precept, once again, it's speaking to Antiochus Epiphanes in the time of the Greeks. But Esau, Edom, so-called white man, he's coming in the same spirit today, and it's a similar um, similar setup that can be applied, right? So this is Daniel 8 verse 25. It says, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And we look up policy previously, which means what was it? I think it was, let me just double check. I think it went back to cunning, right? I think it went back to cunning, just double checking. Right, cunning, right? In a bad sense, right? And he shall cause craft to to prosper, which the word craft goes back to um, deceit and treachery, right? It says, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Because when these policies and these goals are being, marketed to the public worldwide, but even out here in Jamaica, you can see that it's all up. It's being talked about from the standpoint of progress and improvement, but the aspect of control is not really highlighted, right? It says, and he shall also stand up against the prince of princes, meaning that in the end, the so-called white man Esau Edom is going to try to stand up against the savior of Israel, right? You Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, predominantly, once your lineage goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, regardless of where you're scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And once your lineage, according to the seed, meaning your father, goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you are an Israelite, whether you can receive it or not, right? But he shall be broken without hand. So in the end, Yahushua is going to get the victory, right? Because it's all about leading up to the MOTB, right? Which I'm going to close out with that precept like I did with the last lesson. So let's see what I asked based on what I was seeing within the news, credible news source. The main inspiration was from a few videos from the JIS, which is the Jamaica Information Service. You can double check and do the like, for your own edification, right? So it says, I asked, how does this tie, meaning the previous conversation, into Dr. Horace Chang's recent statement about digital ticketing, right? Because he did make a statement regarding that, implementing 1,000 body camera to security forces, getting 3,000 CCTV cameras, which, he explained that that was part of expanding Jamaica Eye, right? Digitizing statements at police stations, which, it's been a while, 2026 still using book and pen, you know, not really the easiest and best way of tracking and storing information, right? And modernizing the police force, which, technology within itself has its uses, it has its place, and it can be used for good. So once again, this is not to say that these items and these initiatives doesn't have or cannot have a good impact or form or be used, to function, you know, in a good capacity. But there are also underlining factors to be considered, and knowing, the scripture says, never trust thine enemy, which Esau, Edom, so called white man, is our enemy. And we have heard our politicians, chiefly the Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, um, talking about never let a good crisis go to waste, which kind of links back to order out of chaos, and it's various mantra from the elites, right? And he's all doing it he said that he doesn't want the country to be left behind and all of that, which, from a carnal perspective, you may say yes, but really and truly, if these measures aren't implemented by him, they're going to be implemented by someone else, because Esau, Edom don't play, right? So, getting back on topic, right? That was the prompt, right? So let's jump around as well. I'll try to skip around as well to may not read every single thing, but let's highlight and go through. It says the recent moves by Dr. Horace Chang to overhaul Jamaica Constabulary Force, which that is the police force out here in Jamaica. It's different from the Jamaica Defense Force, which has to do with the soldiers, right? And the Defense Force, I think they answer directly to the Governor General, right? Which goes back to the the British monarch, right? As King Charles is the head of state in Jamaica, right? Moving on, it says um, Chang to overhaul the Jamaica Constabulary Force, represent the enforcement layer of the living laboratory, because in the previous lesson went over how Jamaica is can be considered a living laboratory for the sustainable development goals, right? Things regarding the energy crisis, things regarding Hurricane Melissa. We can go ahead and watch our previous video, but trying to give a little recap as we delve in. It says, while the energy policies and JAMDEX manage the economy, these national security upgrades provide the oversight necessary to ensure the transition of the Sustainable Development Goals, specifically Goal 16, peace, justice, and strong institution, is fully integrated and monitored, right? So it's piecing it together. The first one says digital ticketing and smart check ecosystem. It says Dr. Chan moves to deploy 6,000 handheld ticketing devices and mobile printers in the end of is mobile printers is the end of anonymous road use, right? So it's going to explain. It says the tie-in in the context of Minister Darrell Vaughan's warning about the energy crisis, digital ticketing allows the state to enforce restricted movement with mathematical precision if the government mandates hybrid work or specific travel zones of safe fuel. These handheld devices, which are linked to NIDS or could be linked to NIDS, can instantly flag unauthorized travel or non-compliance, right? So right there and then, that tying with the needs, right away it can be flagged, right? It says the World Economic Forum connection, if it shifts from policing from incident response to data-driven enforcement, where every interaction is logged in the digital cloud. And that is why even worldwide you see this big push for AI and cloud technology, right? Because a major part of the new world order is going to be technology, right? The 3,000 cameras and Jamaica Eye expansion says the expansion of Jamaica Eye, including the 2,500 new cameras approved in the strategic master plan and the opening of the C5 monitoring center, is the AI backbone mentioned earlier. Facial and license recognition. Dr. Chan explicitly noted that these cameras feature license plates and facial recognition in a sustainable city, right, which it links to Sustainable Development Goal 11, right? It says this technology is used to monitor congestion zones and carbon footprint, which of late you've been hearing more and more about carbon and carbon footprint. Even recently with Amazon, you can see, I think there's a carbon tax within the invoices now, right? It says the surveillance mesh by integrating private cameras in the national network, which Jamaica Eye actually allows that. It says the state creates a mesh where there is nowhere to go that isn't registered, mirroring the exact scenario described in the World Economic Forum's "You'll Own Nothing" essay, right? More about that in the previous video. Moving on, it says 1,000 plus body cameras and modernized stations, referring to the police stations, right? It says the transition from big books, manual logbooks, to station records management system, and the 1,000 new body worn cameras serves two functions: transparency, the official reason, and it brackets it, ironically enough, to build public trust and professionalize the JCF; data integration, the structural reason, by digitizing statements and phasing out logbooks, the JCF is being plugged into the same AI-driven central database as NIDS and Jamdex, right? It says this ensures that every citizen's security profile is updated in real time. If you are involved in a traffic dispute or a fuel rationing violation, that data is instantly available across the entire government digital stack, right? So it's all tracking and monitoring, right? Not verse, so like a point four, it says the 2026 Living Laboratory Synthesis. It says when you combine Dr. Chang's security upgrades with the energy crisis and Jamdex, you get a total management system. Scenario, digital enforcement action. Fuel shortage, Minister Walls calls for restricted movement. Detection, Jamaica Eye AI camera flags vehicles moving during restricted hours. Enforcement, police use handheld digital devices to issue fines, which are instantly linked to the driver's NIDS, right? Because with NIDS, what they plan to do is to have all your IDs under one central ID, right? Driver's license, TRN, which is tax registration number out here in Jamaica, and various other IDs, passports, and the like. It will all fall under one central ID, right? Payment, it says the fine is automatically deducted from or flagged on the citizen's Jamdex wallet. So should the Jamdex be fully implemented, right, and being the main currency of use within these times, then that's a possible outcome, right? So you won't be able to get away with anything, if it's programmable money. So if you commit an infraction, right away you can actually be ticketed or fined, right? It says record the entire interaction is captured on a body camera and is filed in the electronic record system, not a physical logbook. Right, so it gives the summary. It says Dr. Horace Chan's modernization isn't just about fighting crime, it is the traditional sense. And that's the thing, people may look at it, they say crime, and they're mentioning the systems for crime, but they don't see how it actually ties in to other aspects of the society, right? It says it is about building the technological guardrails for a society where movement, energy use, and financial transactions are centrally managed, right? So you can't you skip tax, you know, all of those things, programmable money. It is a very versatile tool when it comes down to control, right? It says by phasing out the big books, the government is removing the analog gaps where people could once exist outside the system. This is the Sustainable Development Goal 16 blueprint in action, a state that is high-tech, data-driven, and capable of monitoring every sustainable goal it sets for the population. So these policies, right, are being implemented, and you hear about them. And even when they are mentioning them, they don't specifically say, oh, these are linked to the Sustainable Development Goals. They're saying that we're building policies to help the country move forward. That's all they've been saying. But they're not saying outright that, look, the reason why we're doing this is to be in line with these sustainable development goals. They're not saying that, look, this is all a part of Agenda 21. They're not even saying that, look, this isn't our laws or our policies. This is being passed down from the UN, who is currently partnering with the World Economic Forum, i.e., their boss is Esau Edom, the so called white man, right? They're not saying all of that. They come out to the Jamaican public and they present it as like, this is our ideas and this is what the government is doing to make your lives better and to do this and to do that, and they're working and all of this, right? But in the end, when it really gets to the biting point, they're going to wish that they didn't take credit for all of this, because when the revolt and the oppression and the constraints start to hit the public in the real way, then that's where the problem is going to come in, right? So I asked, hold on, let me check on this side. All right, continuing on, right? So the second prompt I sent was, can the digitized ticketing affect non-motorists by them receiving tickets for offenses outside of traffic violations, for example, littering, and can the lack of appropriate ID lead to jail time, at least until someone can identify the person? Right? The short answer is yes. The infrastructure being built in 2026 is designed to be a multi-purpose enforcement tool, right? So you're hearing about crime, you're hearing about traffic, but you don't. So the common man that the non-motorists within the society that don't own a vehicle, right? Not committing crimes, they don't see how this is actually tied into them or how it can affect them, because they're hearing about it being applied to other aspect of society that they believe doesn't they don't have direct involvement with, right? Not owning a car, so on and so forth, right? It says while the marketing focuses, marketing is the right choice of words, right? It says while the marketing focuses on traffic and crime, the underlying technology, the digital ticketing devices, NIDS and Jamaican Eye, is essentially a unified compliance system. It's all about compliance, it's all about monitoring, it's all about control. Right? It says here is how the living laboratory handles non-motorists and identification in this new era. First point, digital ticketing beyond the steering wheel. It says the handheld device is currently being used by the JCF and increasingly by the National, I think this is Waste, hold on, right, National Solid Waste Management Authority, right? Right, which help with like the cleaning of roads, removal of garbage, disposal of garbage, and things of that nature. It says and are not restricted to the Road Traffic Act. The littering example. Under the National Solid Waste Management Act, littering is a ticketable offense. Previously, these were paper-based and rarely enforced. In 2026, a police officer or a public um, cleansing officer can use a digital device to scan your NIDS card and issue a digital ticket for littering or public nuisance like public urinating or illegal vending on the spot. And within half a tree where we prophesy, we see it every week. You know, we go 2 times a week on Tuesdays and on Saturdays, and there are times when we see those the vendors who are quote unquote illegally vending. When they see those peace of quote unquote peace officers come, or the police coming, they have to be running with their goods so that they don't get confiscated or that they don't get in trouble, and they always have to be on the lookout, always have to be running, right? And there are other offenses like using of explosives in public, you know things like that, right? They are offenses that may not necessarily put you in jail, but are ticketable offenses. As I said, it's a few right here as it pertains to National Solid Waste Management Act, right? The second point says the seamless link. This ticket does not just sit in a book, it is instantly uploaded to the same traffic ticket management system used for motorists. It says this means a littering fine could technically pop up on your record the next time you try to renew a document or interact with a government agency. So imagine you have a littering ticket outstanding and you go to renew your license and you're like, because most of the time these things are done at the tax office, you know, you may be told that, look, in order for you to get this or get that, just a scenario, not saying this is how it will go or this is how it goes, but a possible scenario is you going to do one thing and realize that you have to clear all those fines before you can move on. Or if needs is in place and they decide that, look, it's programmable money, we're just going to charge you right here and now, and there's nothing to do about it, right? But here's the kicker, right? The no ID trap for detention to jail, from detention to jail. There are a lot of undocumented Jamaicans, a lot of Jamaicans without ID. There are a lot of the previous lesson mentioned it as well. There are a lot of unbanked Jamaicans as well. So the NIDS and the Jamdex tying in and taking time to move away from traditional banking systems, because it would be easy to get a NIDS wallet, than actually sign up for a bank account and all of that. It's a solution to what the government considers a very big problem, right? It says in 2020, in the 2026 framework, your identity is your license to exist. As I said, we say it over and over again, especially out there preaching. The NIDS, the NIDS, it's not the MOTB or the mark of what. It is a precursor. It is the framework that will eventually lead to it, right? So it says in the 2026 framework, your identity is your license to exist in public spaces. It says the lack of an appropriate ID like the NIDS or a driver's license creates a massive friction point with the modernized police force, right? Detention for identification. If you are stopped for a minor offense like the traffic restrictions mentioned by Minister Vaz or a littering violation and cannot produce a NIDS compliant ID, the police have the authority to detain you, right? It says the until identified rule under the updated security protocols. If the Jamaica AI or a handheld scanner cannot verify who you are, you can be held in administrative detention at a modernized station because the JCF is phasing out manual logbooks in the favor of the station records management system. You cannot simply be signed out by a friend. Your digital profile must be created or verified before release, right? So you have to be on the grid. It's a way to actually catch those who are not on the grid, those to catch the so-called undocumented and the outliers. Right? The risk of jail, it says if you remain unidentified or if the system flags you as having outstanding matters, unpaid Jamdex fines, or previous digital tickets, a judge can remand you into custody. In the living laboratory, being outside the digital system is increasingly treated as a security risk. Right, the previous lesson, one of the section highlighted what was dubbed by the AI digital cage. Right, the digital cage. Right, we're living in some very serious times, but the majority, they're not paying attention. Right? 3, the social credit slide. It says this is where the Sustainable Development Goals 16, peace and justice, and the WEF, World Economic Forum, theories meet reality. Unified records. When your littering ticket, your needs profile, your Jamdex wallet, and your traffic history are all in one digital cloud, the state gains a 360-degree view of your behavior. The penalty, if you are a repeat offender for minor things like littering or unauthorized movement during an energy crisis, the system can automatically flag you. This could lead to higher fines, being barred from certain government subsidies like the fuel caps boss mentioned, or even being denied entry into smart cities zones monitored by by Jamaica Eye. So restriction of movement, right? Summary of the risk action. It shows analog pass and the 2026 digital reality. Littering might get a scolding or a paper ticket that gets lost. Digital ticket issues via NIDS instantly linked to your facial/legal profile. No ID, police might know you or let you go with a warning. Mandatory detention until your identity is verified against a national database. Public order, minor offenses rarely track. AI Jamaica I plus digital ticketing, a permanent behavior record that affects your access to services, right? And also increases your chances of being penalized, right? In short, the system Dr. Horace Chang and Darrell Vaz are building is designed to close the loopholes of the past. In this laboratory, the goal is total visibility. If you cannot be identified digitally, you essentially lose your right to move freely in the physical world. Now, bear in mind, this is generated by an AI and it's all, some of it is hypothetical, as not every aspect of what is mentioned is fully integrated and implemented within the society, but it gives an idea, or helps to put you on your guard as to the direction in which we're heading to, right? So I'm going to close out with Revelation 13, as previously did, right? So this is Revelation 13, and we'll start at verse 16. It says, and he caused it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Right? So how is it that no man would be able to buy or sell? Right? If there is there's talks about universal basic income and having a universal ID, right? Should you have a universal ID and you receive central um, banking digital currencies, right, to be used, that is programmable, then, and that comes in the form of the mark of the you know what, then there's no way for you to participate without being on that digital grid using that form of identification, right? The RFI you know what, right? It says, here's wisdom, let him that had understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 600 3 scores and 6, which is Chi Stigma when you go into the word stigma, it goes into um, a puncture, right? Or a, you know, yeah, pretty much a puncture. Let me touch that, and it's also linked to slave. If you look up the word stigmata, and there are previous lessons I did on the mark of the beast, right, and how even this breaking down the 666 and how stigma or stigmata was applied in those times, right? This stigma, right, a mark pricked in or branded upon the body, the ancient Oriental usage, slaves, civil servants, polite slaves, right, and soldiers bore the name or stamp of their master or commander, branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belong to, meaning which system you're under and who you serve, which ultimately is going to, if you take this, you're saying that Esau, Edom, so-called white man is your God and your master, right? You pick your side. It says, and there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with a token of their gods, right? So, there's a judgment for that as well, right? Get back this, right? Not Genesis, right? And this is the judgment, right? Right. Revelation 14, verse 9, it says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, and in the presence of the Lamb, which is Yahushua, the Savior of Israel, and the smoke of their torment ascended up for ever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. And notice it says that they have no rest day or night, right? Reason being, it's if you accept this, right, you may think that you're doing it for food. You're thinking about you're trying to you're trying to secure yourself in harsh times, but falling under that system, you're in for a hell of a ride. It's gonna be hell. It's a digital prison, right? And it's gonna be very oppressive, very very oppressive. All right, and you're gonna be destroyed by the Lord anyway. So just choose as an Israelite, turn ye back to Yahweh Shemi Shai, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And hopefully it's just edifying. Once more, to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Shemi Shai, Bashem Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers in the highways and byways pushing this word in all sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps, the hopeful elect. Shalom.